Welcome back to Tiki Taka Talk, and in today's episode, I'm going to be rating every single Premier League team's transfer window so far in this transfer window. There's still the month of August for these teams to make new transfers, but I am going to be recapping who they've signed, who they've let go, and what I think of their transfer window so far. So let's get into things, all 20 teams. Then at the end of the video, I will be making a tier list on each different club. So let's start off with Arsenal, the reigning defending champions of England, the Premier League champions. Who do they bring in? They brought in Meslier from Leeds and Tizolis from Club Brugge. They let go Heen to Bremen, Kivor went to Porto, and Leandro Trossard went to Besiktas. Now, if you look at this from a non-biased point of view, this is a really bad transfer window, and I agree with that. Tizolis was a nice transfer. He was team of the season in Club Brugge, but I'm going to give Arsenal a C+ for this transfer window. They did not do what they should have done. Sorry, my cat's just ripping up stuff in the background. But anyway, we move on to Aston Villa. Aston Villa, they were great last year, got top 4, and they were amazing. And they're one of the best clubs to root for since they're so likable. But their transfer window, they brought in Manzambi from Freiburg, one of the biggest youth prospects that there is in the world. It was a fantastic signing. They also brought in Gomez from Wolves, Cisse from Lask, and Garnacho got loaned in from Chelsea. I guess Aston Villa just is the we can fix him club. They let go Morgan Rogers to Chelsea in a massive deal. Tielemans went to Manchester United. Daniel Malin went to Roma. And Barrenechea went to Benfica. So those are the transfers for Aston Villa. They brought in good players. They let go of good players. But they got their money's worth whenever they let go of their players. So I'm going to give Aston Villa a B for this transfer window so far. They've gotten good players, but Garnacho definitely tanks down the rating. Because why would they sign Garnacho? Next up, we have Bournemouth. Bournemouth, their transfers they brought in was Antonio Silva from Benfica, Rodriguez from Elche, and Jimenez from Milan. But they let go of Senesi to Tottenham. Traore went to Marseille. Sinistera went to Cruzeiro. And Jimenez, who they just signed, got loaned out to Fiorentina. So Bournemouth didn't have the best transfer window so far, but I'm going to give them a C because it wasn't bad, wasn't good. It was just in the middle. Also, these things are being ranked from F to S. So that's what we're ranking on. Next up, we have Brentford. They signed Schuster from Salzburg, Jadon Anthony from Burnley, and Callum Wilson from West Ham. They let go of Onyeka to Coventry and Henderson to Chelsea. So they didn't let go of any big players. They didn't bring in any big players. So I'm also going to give them a C. Brighton. They brought in a very good young center back in Vuskovic. Whatever, I thought it was snowing outside for a second. They brought in Vuskovic from Spurs, Johanna from AIK, and Struijk from Leeds United. They let go, though, of Van Hecke from Spurs, Coppola to Paris FC, and Sarmiento into Middlesbrough. They got in Vuskovic, but they let go of Van Hecke, so that kind of balances out. But I like the transfers that Brighton made. I'm going to give them a B+. Chelsea. This is a very interesting one because the players they brought in are fantastic. The players they let go are also fantastic. Morgan Rogers came in from Aston Villa for 137 million euros. Insanely big price tag. Lacroix also went in from Crystal Palace. Palestra went in from Atalanta. They signed Quinda from Sporting, and they signed Emega from Strasbourg. So a lot of big signings for Chelsea in this window. But they let go of Andre Santos, who went to Manchester United. Cucurella went to Real Madrid. Tyreek George went to Everton, and Alejandro Garnacho went to Aston Villa. So they let go of big players, but they also brought in a lot of big players. Maybe they paid a little too much because Blue Co is just spinning their cash every single time. But I'm going to give Chelsea a B+. It wasn't enough to warrant an A because they spent a lot of money, but still, they brought in world-class players. Next up, Coventry City. They just won the championship, and now they're looking to bring in the best players to help them stay up in the Premier League. They brought in Chachuna from Burnley, Amenda from Frankfurt, and Onyeka from Brentford. So 3 decent Premier League proven signings. And they only let out Collins to Bristol City, so they haven't lost any major players, which is why I'm giving Coventry a B-. Crystal Palace. They brought in 1 player so far, Mingueza from Celta Vigo. He's a great right back, but they didn't really need a right back because they had Daniel Munoz. And they let out Lacroix to Chelsea and Imre to Wrexham. So this wasn't the best of transfer windows so far for Crystal Palace, which is why I'm giving them a D. They just lost one of their best center backs, but they could definitely make it up for it in August. Everton, they brought in Roll from Freiburg. They brought in Tyreek George from Chelsea, and they brought in Hayden Hackney from Middlesbrough. But they did let go of Idrissa Gueye and Seamus Coleman to free agency. But that doesn't really matter too much, which is why I'm giving Everton a B-. A decent little transfer window for the Blues. Next up, Fulham. They brought in Kusi Asari from Bayern and Gonzalo Garcia from Real Madrid. Great striker. They let go of a lot of great players. Harry Wilson went to Leeds United. Issa Diop went to Ipswich Town. And Raul Jimenez went to Wolverhampton. So they let go of a few good players, which is why I'm giving Fulham a D+. Hull City, newly promoted, just won the promotion playoffs. And now, who do they sign? They signed Butland from Rangers, Morita from Sporting, and Target from Newcastle. Not the best signings. And they let go of Joseph to Middlesbrough and Pandur, their starting keeper, back to Rangers. So they basically swapped keepers. And this was not a good transfer window. But I'm not going to give them an F. I'm going to give them a D-, just because they're a newly promoted team. So they can't really do that bad. Ipswich Town. They brought in players like Emerson from Toulouse, Fatawu from Leicester City, Diop from Fulham, and Maeda from Celtic. Fantastic transfers in. They only let go of Baggett to Millwall and Muric to Sassuolo. I'm giving Ipswich an A-. Ipswich Town had a fantastic transfer window so far, brought in great players for low amounts of money, and didn't let go of any of their players that helped them get to the Premier League. So I think Ipswich could maybe survive relegation. Leeds United, my team, my guys, may have had one of the best transfer windows. They brought in Murahimovic from Sassuolo, one of the most sought-out center backs in the transfer market. Callum Wilson Harry Wilson from Fulham. Great player, got him for free, and maybe he'll be good. We also signed Trafford from Man City. Fantastic goalkeeping option. We let go of Struck to Brighton. Pretty big center back move, but we replaced him with Murahimovic. We let out Smith to go to Young Boys and Meslier to Arsenal, but we didn't let go of any big players, and we brought in 3 humongous players. A+ to Leeds United. It's not an S tier, but it is a great, fantastic transfer window so far by Leeds United. Next up, Liverpool. They brought in Jacquet from Stade Rennais and Munoz from Osasuna, 2 young players who are not proven in the Premier League, but can still maybe break out next year. But they lost Konate to Real Madrid, they lost Robertson to Spurs, and they lost Mohamed Salah he hasn't gone to a club yet, but still they lost him. I'm giving Liverpool a D-. They lost 3 core players last year, and they brought in 2 players with no Premier League experience. This is a really bad transfer window by Liverpool so far, but maybe they can make up for it in the coming weeks. Manchester City. Really big transfers they've made. Elliot Anderson, the second highest transfer of this window in the Premier League, behind only Morgan Rogers. They also signed a Turbot from Troyes and Mungo from Leicester City. But they did let go of a lot of great players. They let out 3 center backs. Akanji went to Inter. Stones went to Inter. Ake went to Fenerbahce. And Bernardo Silva went to Real Madrid. They lost a lot of great players, but those players were aging. And Man City are going to a newer generation. Okay, their center backs, they may not have those depth pieces, but they still have Diaz and Gvardiol. They have great young center backs coming through the academy. And I'm going to give Man City a B+, just because they lost those center backs. If they only lost 2, I maybe would have gave them an A. But no, they lost 3, so I'm giving them a B+. Manchester United, they had a pretty decent transfer window so far. Andre Santos from Chelsea, Tielemans from Villa, and Ederson from Atalanta. 3 great midfielders. And that strengthens their midfield, which was their weak point of last year, but they still haven't signed a left back. They let go of Højlund to Napoli, Casemiro to Inter Miami, and Sancho to free agency, which is why I'm giving Manchester United a B. They still haven't solved all their problems, but they've got a really good midfield for next season. Newcastle, they brought in players like Toure from Hoffenheim, Bamba from Monaco, Stoyer from Ajax, and Hwang from Raymond's. But they did lose key players like Tonali to Spurs and Gordon to Barcelona. They also lost Trippier, a legend, to Wolves. So I'm going to give Newcastle a B-. They haven't had the best of windows. They lost 2 key players, but they have done their best to replace those players with new players. Nottingham Forest, they brought in Gustavo Sa and Schlager, 2 decent players, but not up to Premier League level. And they let go of Elliot Anderson to Manchester City, one of their best players, Carmo to Olympiacos, and Ortega to Olympiacos, which is why I'm giving Nottingham Forest a D-. I could have easily given them an F, but they got a lot of money from the Elliot Anderson move. They still haven't used it. Maybe they use it in the next month. Sunderland, I'm giving a F. They brought in Meunier from Lille, decent little right back. They lost Mayenda to Stade Rennais and Pembele to Le Havre. They have had the non-existent transfer window of all the teams. They've only brought in 1 player. This entire transfer window, I'm giving them an F. And it wasn't even a good player like Crystal Palace, who signed a really good right back in Mingueza. They signed a mid right back from France. F for Sunderland. And finally, Spurs. This is S material. Tonali from Newcastle, great midfielder. Fernandes from West Ham, decent little midfielder, maybe a little too expensive. Van Hecke from Brighton, fantastic center back. Senesi from Bournemouth, fantastic center back. Dubravka from Burnley, great goalkeeper. Andy Robertson from Liverpool, great left back with lots of experience. But they did lose a few players. They lost Vuskovic to Brighton. One of their best young talents is now gone. Lancashire to Middlesbrough. Dragonson to Fiorentina. And Basuma, they just released him all up. So Spurs, I am giving Tottenham Hotspur an S. They had a fantastic window. Maybe spent a little too much on these transfers. But the transfer market right now is terrible for every team. So they capitalized on what they had. Maybe if the Anderson move came in before Tonali would have gone for maybe 20 million more. But I'm giving Spurs an S, which is when we get on to the tier list. All of the tiers, S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and F tier. Starting off in F tier, we have Sunderland, the worst transfer window of the Premier League team so far. In D, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Hull City, Liverpool, and Nottingham Forest. Teams that didn't bring in many players, but also lost key ones. So that's why they're in the D tier. Liverpool, surprisingly making it into the D tier with all these terrible teams. C tier, Arsenal and Bournemouth. Arsenal, the former Premier League champions, down all the way in C tier. B tier, I have Aston Villa, Brighton, Chelsea, Coventry City, Everton, Man City, Manchester United, and Newcastle. The teams that have had a fairly decent transfer window. Not bad, but not great. It's just been good. A tier, the great transfer windows. Ipswich Town and Leeds United. Both of these teams, for what they had and what they got, was remarkable. Leeds somehow found a way to get all these players for so little. And Ipswich Town brought in players that will help them probably stay up in the Premier League. But an S tier. the best transfer window so far. Tottenham Hotspur. They were in 17th. They were terrible last season. And what do? They sign fantastic players, and Tottenham Hotspur want to get Europe next season. Will they do that? Maybe not. Maybe yes. Who knows? But that is the Premier League transfer window so far. In the coming days, I will make one for La Liga and Bundesliga. So see you next time on Tiki Taka Talk.